We can open the session. It's okay. Good evening, dear colleagues, representatives of the press, of the public. It is a pleasure, and it's so good that you found the time to join us here so that we could speak today on a topic that is so important for all of us, which to me personally is well known and is I find very close. How do we help when it's in terms of stress? We have seen in recent years the growth of the charity sector in Russia. We have seen new foundations spring up, and the approach would be more and more systemic and professional. Business has been providing fantastic support, and all of us, we are addressing important social issues. Well, in this room, we have many people who deserve our respect, representatives of the business who do make contributions to take part in charity, representatives of serious charities and organizations that promote communication and establishing bridges and relations between business and charity. So this matter is very relevant today. That is why it has been raised during the forum. In times of crisis, crisis certainly tells on the country's economy and, amongst other things, on business and clearly also on us, charities. How does it tell upon us? How does it affect us? This is what we're about to discuss today. What do we do about this? How do we treat this? How do we address this? Today I will probably begin by introducing the participants of this discussion, the panelists. Aylin Suntay, first Vice President of Gazprombank. Ian Colebourne, Managing Partner, Deloitte, CIS. Elena Kokhanovskaya, Director for Public Relations at MTS. Elena Tarasova, Brand Director of Zarina, Melon Fashion Group. Maria Chertok, whom we have been waiting for so long, Director of Charities AIDS Foundation, Russia. To the right is Mary Davis, President, Managing Director, Europe, Eurasia regions for Special Olympics.
Shih, старший вице-президент.
Shih, the international organization Autism Speaks. Nicholas Colloff, Executive Director, the Argidius Foundation. Paulina Filipova, Director, Perry Charity Foundation. Here I am. Oh, yes. Okay, sorry. It's a pleasure to welcome you. Maria Morozova, Director General of Elena and Gennady Timchenko Charity Foundation. Vladimir Efanov, President, Miloserdie Charitable Foundation. As well as Pascal, Cuttat, Head of Regional Delegation
в Российской Федерации, Беларуси и Молдове. И Сергей Орлов. Сергей, где вы? Вот вы. Это председатель комитета Общероссийской общественной организации «Деловая Россия», который как раз помогает бизнесу быть более социально ответственным и сотрудничает, помогает благотворительности, меценатству и так далее. Вот. Да. И я, Наталья Вodiанова, фонд «Обнаженные сердца». Нам очень приятно, что организаторы форума второй раз уже выбирают нас как организаторы этой сессии в вопросе благотворительности. У нас у нас есть, в принципе, чем гордиться. У нас есть опыт 11-летней работы в стране. Мы уже как бы мы не разово, но системно подходим к вопросам развития благотворительности, в том числе, и самое главное, в нашем направлении это системной поддержки семей, которые воспитывают детей с особенностями развития. И в том числе мы в том числе работаем в развитии благотворительности в целом. Мы всячески сотрудничаем и пытаемся более эффективно сотрудничать, в том числе и с бизнесом, чтобы как-то вдохновлять их на какие-то важные шаги, чтобы они не делали что-то на полшага, а делали это полноценно вместе с нами, включаем все свои ресурсы для этого. Ну и мне, как человеку, это тоже очень важно и близко. Все-таки это такой долгий путь мой личный. Поэтому но давайте, не будем, у нас на самом деле очень мало времени, поэтому у меня есть ряд определенных вопросов для всех, потому что у нас очень много участников сессии, мне бы хотелось всем дать слово сегодня, поэтому давайте начнем с того, что мы обрисуем общую картину вообще того, как российская благотворительность переживает нынешний экономический спад. И вот я бы хотела обратиться к вам, Мария, потому что все-таки Charities Foundation, у вас есть прекрасный опыт, и вы можете нам это как-то все в цифрах даже, я уверена, рассказать. Есть ли, в принципе, отличие кризиса сегодня и 2008 года?
Спасибо, Наталья. Но я бы хотела в цифрах. В цифрах не очень получится, к сожалению, потому что цифр немного. Вообще в целом про российскую благотворительность. Но да, мы, в общем, на своей истории, как бы организационной истории, мы даже прошли 3 кризиса, то есть это 3-й, да, мы 98-й год помним. И на самом деле, да, несмотря на то, что это такое тяжелое время и, может быть, становится меньше денег, опыт наш показывает, что кризис, в принципе, очень продуктивен для благотворительности, да, как бы не банально это звучало, да, все говорят, что кризис это возможно.
Everybody says that crisis is an opportunity. 1998 became a time when the first time the companies began to think not about giving more and more to charity. Instead, they began pondering how they should help so that it should produce some social outcome. And that was the time when we saw the rise of the first corporate grants programs, and the help became more systemic. And since then, we can say that Russian corporate philanthropy has been rising very much along the same lines as it's happening in Europe and other countries of the world. It's not that they are just having windfall, no, but they set reasonable goals and achieve reasonable results. 2008 has become an important landmark when the company, despite the fact that the budgets have been very much cut, they began to use money as well as other resources to help charities. It began as a very simple movement of corporate volunteerism, when they say members of the staff would go to plant the trees or paint the walls, but very soon it evolved into more sophisticated forms of support, both professional services that are so much in badly need by the charities, and they began to provide best services from best specialists. They are also logistics and transport, possibility to develop, say, advertising and advertising placement, not necessarily helped by money alone. It's in kind contributions do. So in my view, this is what we have had since 2008. What is going on right now? In principle, the companies, as well as private foundations, I cannot say that they have considerably decreased their budgets, let me put it this way, for charity. If you may count it in dollars and euros, these budgets may have gone down, but in rubles we do not see a particular decline. And the reason for that is that this crisis is unlike the previous crisis. And we can't sort of pretend that the crisis is not around, so cutting down on charity doesn't look nice. So in the last year, we have seen that this aspiration for more strategic impact, to a more focused strategic approach, nowadays has been seen in companies that have not been seen before doing so. For example, government with a large share of state ownership, and surely their budgets are well ahead of the budgets of other private companies. And in this sense, if they do get strategic, well-pondered programs, then certainly it will do only good. What do you think is their plan for this? Why are they doing it? Well, maybe in the long run it may lead to them spending somewhat less money in the long run, because you can achieve so much more by paying so much less money. Well, in my view, this is where I want to move over to Elena Tarasova. We recently ran an excellent project together, and it so happened that just amongst other things, it happened in times of crisis, and I would be very interested to hear how we launched a collection together with Zarina of these beautiful T-shirts, the one that I'm wearing, a collier, a neck, which were designed by young children with special needs. We ran this project, and it's something that brought money to you. Tell us, please, how did it turn out for you? Was it a success or not? Thank you, Natalia, for this wonderful introduction. Indeed, I came here as to show to you, and with my own example, how business and charity can sort of meet halfway. I have a beautiful blouse from the collection Fashion with Sense, which we've done with this foundation Naked Hearts, and this was designed by people with special needs. It's important for business not only to show compassion and empathy for certain groups of people who need more care, but also show that we have such fantastic talent, that we should show how much we respect what they do. And indeed, it's beautiful design. People were queuing, fashion editors and chief editors of glossy magazines are now queuing to buy this, so it's clearly recognition. We should look for such ways to get the message of charity across to society. This, I suppose, needs to be done for us as a business society. But how are the sales? What are the sales like? Yes, this is what we are really very proud of, and we're so pleased as a company that these models really are bestsellers. They have fantastic economic indicators, and it's important for us that it's giving excellent profit and excellent sales revenue. We sold online this collection. It sold out in 4 hours, and in 200 shops across 100 shops in Russia. It was sold out in a matter of weeks, which shows that this project is of interest not for both of us, but to thousands of women who become ambassadors of this project of sort of thoughtful fashion. This is what I would like to say. So charity projects can and may be wearable, may be beautiful, and certainly commercial. It was an excellent indicator, and I hope that we shall continue. We very much like that being unique as an example in Russia. No, we don't have peers in Russia, but from a humanistic point of view, it would be so nice to have more. Thank you. I would like to give the floor to another Elena. I know that MTS did not cut down their budgets for charity.
Was it difficult to take this particular decision, and how do you actually work on these decisions? How do you take them? Well, I think I'd like to begin with something else from the beginning of the story. So to say, charity in Russia is very special and has specific characteristics. Historically, well, in Europe, charitable foundations are have existed for a long time. In Russia, we have specific characters of their development. There are charitable foundations which collect hundreds and thousands of euros for charity projects. In our country, historically, shall we say, this program came down from the top, shall we say, not from compassion and empathy only. It's more of a differentiating between different people rather than helping them. So when the economy is suffering from crisis, those charity operations are cut down, shall we say. It's not your experience. Well, this experience is the experience of corporates as well, because this is the Russian mentality. So from the point of view of business, what Maria and Elena were saying, charitable programs which are a part of the program of a company or business strategy of the company, then it works. If it isn't, if there is no system in rendering aid, this lack of a systemic approach leads to cutting down on charity programs altogether. So it's very important for companies to continue to be profitable in order to render those services. So it's very important for companies to aim at higher profitability, which allows the businessmen and the representatives of the business to render strategy. So the charitable or philanthropic activities have to be a part of the charitable program of the, or strategy of the company. If it's in the business plan, then it's a part of business mission. Do you have any examples that you would like to bring forward? We have this project, the Fund of Konstantin Khabensky, one of the leading actors in Russia. We are working on the project Generation M. We stage plays in different regions of Russia, in different towns of Russia. Konstantin is taking active part in that. And we are training children with specific needs, with special needs. It's a very interesting project from the from the side of lighting and conducting, and all the children. 85 roles in these plays are taken by children, and only 5 roles are played by the celebrities. Then celebrities leave, but the plays remain in the city or the town, and the funds go to the charity fund. And the play which is staged in this particular town or city doesn't leave the stages of these theaters. The other project we are working on is an online project, internet project. 8 million people are the auditorium for this project. This portal is integrated with all social networks such as Vkontakte and Facebook. It's a portal which allows for children, for the development, creative development of children. We represent all sorts of compositions, paintings on this portal. I'm sorry, I have to intervene. Thank you very much for your story. Well, the only thing I wanted to add right now is the most important thing is why is this happening and developing in such a successful way? But it was happening and developing in such a successful way prior to the crisis. And the only revenue that we have nowadays is only from the internet activities. So this is why we're focusing on that. It helps us in our business. And as opposed to other companies which have this non-systemic approach to charitability, we have built the philanthropic mission into the strategy of our business, which is highly important. Thank you very much. That was an important remark. I would like to give the floor to the representatives of charitable organizations. And I have a question to Nicholas Colloff. In 2008, Nicholas, you headed Oxfam in Russia, and now you are heading SMIN and the corporate fund in Western Europe. And I suppose you have some experience to share with the NGOs of Russia. What experience can you share with us? What's good in this crisis for us? Is there anything good in this crisis for us?
I won't listen to myself. The 2008 was indeed very interesting and challenging for NGOs in Russia. And I think the three things that they learnt, really. The first is there are many things you can do with relatively little amounts of money. So don't imagine that what matters is the financial contribution, but actually how intelligently you apply the resources you have to achieve what you want to do. And that includes being able to motivate volunteers. So that was very important. It's not always about the money, it's about the way in which that money is allocated. And the second thing they learnt was to pay a great deal more attention to the people they were actually seeking to assist, the end beneficiary. It's absolutely fundamental that if you're going to get effective charitable work, you need to create programs which reflect the actual needs of the people concerned, and that even that process becomes a much more dynamic and effective way of allocating resources.
Да. Я видела в том числе, что Мария...
That's right. Maria Morozova was nodding her assent to you. Maria, can you add anything? Thank you for noticing that I was nodding. The crisis that we are talking about right now has this double negative effect. On the one hand, during the crisis, people are experiencing more problems with which we are dealing. And on the other hand, of course, there are less resources. So this double negative effect. Well, I did agree with the previous speaker as the representative of a private family fund, which in connection with the crisis and in accordance with the statistics, as Maria Chertok may note, the funds had grown, private funds have grown in comparison with corporate funds. Well, actually, the corporate or business responsibility is connected more with business, but the family fund is more of a personal, creative character. And these funds, of course, have more freedom in that respect. I would like you to treat these funds as a very important resource for conducting charitable activities. I absolutely agree with the fact that during the crisis, such funds as ours are beginning to play a more important role, and looking at the efficiency of those applicants who are turning to us, how important the topics they are raising are for us, how they can plan their strategic development, how they build partnerships and partner relationships, and how they report on their activities. So I feel that as a resource, we need to look at all types of opportunities from a very responsible standpoint. I understand what you're saying. You're talking about grants, if I'm not mistaken, the grants that you are channeling to those in need. What kind of internal systemic changes have you introduced? Have you revised your policies as to whom you're cooperating with, who your partners are? Or are you dealing with global issues, or are you focusing on targeting specific groups? Well, in our life, as far as figures are concerned, there are no dramatic changes. Our budget is the same as it was prior to the crisis, but the sponsors are raising issues of efficiency of the usage of these funds. As far as internal changes to the program are concerned, we are, to a more extent, leaning on the principle of, if not me, then who goes to those who have no alternative means of sponsorship. So the development of regions, towns and villages of Russia are beginning to play a more important role. We are targeting these specific groups. More and more of our programs are focused on this aspect. We give less thought to international programs, cultural exchange. It's still a part of our activities, but we have refocused our attention to the population of our country and to those in need in our country. Thank you very much, Maria. I would like to ask Mary Davis, representative of Special Olympics. This organization is has been working all over the world, and you were heading the whole region from area from Britain to Central Asia. What are the lessons that you drew from economic crisis in other countries, and how does this affect your activities or make it more difficult?
Some of the lessons that we have learned as a large organization. Special Olympics is a global... Okay, sorry. Special Olympics is a global organization for people with an intellectual disability, and we exist in 171 countries, of which Russia is one of our biggest organizations, actually, and it's one of the biggest non-governmental organizations in Russia, catering for 130,000 people with an intellectual disability. But the sad thing is we're actually unknown. There isn't an awful lot of awareness about the work that we do, and I think that's a lesson that we have learned, that we must be out there, be more known and acceptable in society, because what we do is use the platform of sport to change attitudes and perceptions in relation to people with intellectual disability, people with Down syndrome, for example, example and show that they are capable people and that they should be living and working in society and in the communities in which they live. And we are also empowering parents to ensure that they keep their children in the home and ensure that they receive an education and that they are respected for their abilities. Of course, there are challenges when we have an economic crisis, and charities are cut back in a lot of cases, both by government and the corporate community. So charities, I think, like ours, do depend an awful lot on philanthropy. But also we depend a great deal on working in partnership with various different groups, and I think that's an important thing to do in a time of crisis, but also to work in partnerships with some corporations. For example, we would have very good relationships with Mattel, the toy company, and Toys R Us, and we work together with them to create programs for very young children from the age of 2 right up until 7. So it's a developmental program for children so that they can learn to play, just as you do in the work that you do, Natalia, with the Naked Heart Foundation. But when you get corporations working together like that, it's actually good for them also, because it's good business-to-business opportunities, and it's good for the charity. We also find that we need to be very strategic about the programs that we offer, and this is why we offer a young children's program, but we also involve youth. And I have heard many times at this forum today and yesterday that our youth are our future, and we must invest in our youth. And what we do through the programs we offer in Special Olympics is educate our youth about the abilities of people with an intellectual disability. And we invite the youth and provide training for them to come and play, to become involved with their peers with intellectual disability, so that they can understand and be educated that these are very capable people, that many of them can hold down jobs and employment if they're given the chance. And we really do find that that program has changed the perception of many, many young people. So we involve companies and philanthropists in helping us to change the attitudes of young people in our schools and in our clubs.
Mary, thank you. You're such a strong voice for people with special needs all over the world, and the organization you represent.
Thank you.
Mary, в принципе, очень органично перевела меня обратно.
Actually brought me back to business, as she said about her cooperation with Mattel. So we'd like to give the floor to Neil Colebourne. I'm very interested to know what does charity in principle, and social corporate responsibility, what does it mean for the company's reputation?
И что это значит для...
What does it mean for you?
Thanks for the question. So, I mean, for us, corporate responsibility, or the commitment to our communities, is a core value within our business. So I'm here with you today not only as the CEO of Deloitte and the CIS, but I'm also the president of the Deloitte Foundation, which is the mechanism through which effectively our people steer how we engage with our partner organizations. And that's something that we established 10 years ago, and I think sort of looking at or listening to the panel sessions so far, there are 2 or 3 points which I think are really worth repeating or resonating. The first is partnership. When we're looking at how we can engage with organizations, we're really looking for how we can partner with them. And that means not only just in terms of fundraising, but how we can deploy the skills that we have within our business. So, you know, looking back, we worked with Downside Up quite a while ago, looking at how they can set up their business advisory council. We supported them in developing their strategy. And that's the sort of second point, which is by engaging with business, and thinking about, from a business perspective, perhaps adding some of the skills that within the organizations may be lacking, how we can make the organizations we're partnering with more sustainable. So when you hit a crisis, it's not something, you know, everybody goes through the economic cycle. That's business and the charitable organizations. And if we're prepared, then you can get through them a lot more comfortably, should we put it that way. And I think the third point for us is really about how we can sort of engage in an innovative way. And I really love the idea about the T-shirt. I think that's really looking at what it is that's within the business, which is not about corporate philanthropy. I don't like the philanthropy idea because money doesn't always solve the problem straight away. And so we're looking for how we can sort of partner with organizations that will have an impact that matters. It's part of our purpose, but have an impact that matters over time. And make things different rather than just how they are right now. So cash solves a problem now, but we can really make a difference into the future by making change in the challenges. And I mean, again, if I reflect on Downside Up, what I think is really fantastic about what they've done is they are responding to immediate needs and challenges, but they're also supporting families across Russia now. They've established a platform, an online platform where people can share information, they can share the challenges, they can get the insights on how to support the children getting through school, to deal with bullying, whatever the things that they're facing. And that is something which started here, has now covered Russia, and they're looking to scale that to become a global program that will support families with Downs in terms of accessing best information and how to best deal with the challenges those kids are facing. So that's what we're really looking for, is that sort of vision on making some change rather than just dealing with a problem immediately.
Yes, family raising children with Down syndrome.
Sure, many of them, but I mean, so that's
yes,
one of
I'm
the
just
programs.
correcting it for our journalists here. И тогда вопрос к Aylin.
Then a question for Aylin Suntay. I know that you have experience of supporting not only financial support, but how else do you think business can support charity?
Let me start from talking about it from the point of Gazprombank, because here we're talking about many interesting projects, and you might say, what is the role of a bank, you know, within the charity industry? And one thing that is important to note for me is, being one of the top 3 banks in Russia, we clearly have a social responsibility to give and to continue to donate to a number of institutions in Russia. And I think the most important thing to emphasize is consistency, because it's very important to be consistent, not to give only in tough times, but to remember that we have to give in good times and in tough times, and to make this effort continuous. My role, for example, in the bank is I head asset management, and we have a dedicated department to endowments, which is a very, very special segment. Many people say to me, but it's part of corporates. Why are you separating endowments separately to pension funds or insurance companies? And for me, actually, it's a very odd question, because it is a very special segment, especially within Russia. And I think one of the roles business plays, or as, for example, my institution plays, is providing the infrastructure for charities, being the bridge between investments and charity by going through the vision of creating endowments. If you look at the history of Russia, and I know at the beginning you asked for some statistics. So, for example, the endowment law in Russia was passed in December year 2006. And it's incredible when you look at year 2007, so many new endowments were set up. And we were really, as Gazprombank, you know, at the leading edge. I have today here Lyudmila Pantileva, who heads the endowments for us for many, many years. And it was really hand-holding the client, talking about what is an endowment, the importance of it. And going back to what Ian is saying, instead of, for example, having a one-time donor, you know, because in Russia, the tragedy sometimes is that, you know, everybody banks on one big donor once a year or 3 times a year, and, you know, institutions write letters to chairmen of banks or big oligarchs to ask for donation. But the beauty of endowments is it's like creating almost like an infinite capital. Because once the endowment is set up and it's funded, you know, the beauty of it is, first of all, it's tax-free, tax-exempt, the income. And these institutions, if it is universities, if it is institutions related to sport, science, and definitely culture, they can always keep the capital, but at the end of the year, pull out the income we made for them during the year and invest it in new projects. It could be a new professorship, it could be a new wing, it could be a special scientific project. But I think this is the beauty of it. And really, for example, in a year like year 2014, there were 22 new endowments that were set up in Russia. I mean, we're not really, you know, it doesn't feel like a crisis. And when you look at the chart of endowments between, you know, year 2007 when it started and in year 2008 when the tax exemption came out, many more people were encouraged to set them up. Today we have, at least as of year 2014, there were 132 endowments in Russia, which is quite encouraging. Of course, the numbers aren't huge. I mean, we're talking about an industry of 27 billion rubles as of end of last year, but it's definitely growing. I mean, when you look at 22 new endowments last year, it's very close to the peak we saw in year 2007, which was 19 new endowments being set up in Russia. And as Gazprombank, I mean, we're a market leader in this area. We have more than 50% market share. Some people say 60, some people say 70, but let's say we are a leading player in this area. And we manage 38 endowments across institutions in Russia. And the geography is huge. You know, of course, you know, Moscow and St. Petersburg are large cities. But having said that, there are 32 different cities in Russia with, you know, for example, across universities, or science or sports or other areas where there are endowments. And we really strongly believe that the longevity of the sector, you know, is strengthened by the idea of endowments. And of course, as a bank, it's our responsibility to manage these funds extremely responsibly, because knowing that at the end of the year, the income is so important for these institutions to spend on special projects that they have.
Thank you, Aylin.
Pleasure.
Well, I don't know if it's a good time for Naked Heart Foundation to think about endowment. maybe as a prevention for the next crisis, right?
Yeah, and also honestly, just to wrap up, because you asked that question, many times we raise it with those who found these kind of, you know, foundations like you or charities. You know, if you're, sorry to say this, but if you're run over by a bus, you know, who's going to continue it with you? Because everybody knows about your passion and how you like driving it. But I think the idea of the endowment is to make sure that, you know, that there's continuity. And I think that that's like almost funding the future of the endowment beyond the founder and their passion towards it.
Thank you, Elena. Я тогда задам...
Aylin, then I would ask a question to Polina Filipova. Since you are representing a private foundation of a big entrepreneur, what's your take on Aylin's suggestion about endowments? Microphone, please. Microphone, please. Microphone, please. I suppose my endowment is... it's one of the ways... Kindly switch on the microphone. Microphone можно включить? Yes, we can read you now, thank you. Yes, endowment is a wonderful, but only one of many instruments that are required for developing foundations and non-for-profits. It's good that they exist in Russia, but certainly in times when, let me put it this way, negative profit on them, maybe it's not the best instrument at this time, which is most attractive and effective for us. Speaking about private foundations, various mixed approaches, because foundations are very young. They are just fledgling foundations. They're just making, just like test steps. What is charity about? What it's like? How can you live with this? What does it give you in terms of personal rewarding? How do you satisfy your personal needs? How does it correlate with business to create for private businesses too? So in this way, we'd like to go back to what Maria Morozova